Welcome back to AFTV, everyone. Welcome to the Tactical Insight Show, powered by the amazing NordVPN. Go check them out in the link in the description below, and we will chat a little bit more about them later. But Arsenal lost 4-1 to Manchester City at the Etihad, the game that was billed as the Premier League final, and we really didn't show up, and that is going to feel so disappointing. And so often when we do this show, Graham, we are often talking about what Arsenal didn't do, because we've got to a level where if Arsenal aren't performing, the focus is on what we didn't do because of that. Now, there's going to be an element to that, but there's a huge element of learning from what Man City did brilliantly, and we've got to take the lessons going forward. But welcome back, Graham. It's great to have you.
Yeah, it's nice to be back after a couple of weeks, James. Yes, very disappointing night for Arsenal, a disappointing result for Arsenal. It felt like a game really where Arsenal had to be streetwise last night and probably compromise on their principles a little bit. But Arteta said he wanted to play in the way that had got us into this position this season. But I think the problem for Arsenal last night was, if you're going to play a high line and you're going to press really high like we did, you've got to track your runners. And we didn't do that. Manchester City, we're going to talk about the system that Pep evolved last night, where they moved away from their normal build-up shape of a 3-2-5, almost to a 4-2-4. And they went long, played for second balls, and they run through the middle of our defence far too easily. Kevin De Bruyne said in his interview after the game in the media outlets that basically his role was to find space when Xhaka and Partey pressed on to Manchester City's 2 number 6. Manchester City were the home team last night, James, and they played a double pivot 2 number 6. Arsenal chose not to play a double pivot, didn't put much protection in front of Holding and Gabriel. We know Arsenal have been vulnerable conceding goals, so possibly I think the question needs to be asked today, was Arteta a little bit naive in the way he set us up? And it almost felt like we were walking into the trap last night. And you have to give enormous credit to Pep, because he adapted the team in some of the selections. In the defence, he played 4 right-footed defenders, Akanji on the left to stop Saka coming inside, because Akanji could use his right foot. He was very clever and smart last night, Pep, and Man City were absolutely outstanding. It just showed the gap at the moment between Manchester City and the rest of the Premier League. Bear in mind, Arsenal have been the nearest challengers to them this season.
I can agree more. And I don't know, look, I know this is an Arsenal channel, and I know we're here to focus on the Arsenal side of things, but from the City perspective, I think it's important we acknowledge what they did well, because it explains where we struggled. And I don't know if I've ever been as in awe of a managerial performance. Maybe that is doing it, and there's a bit of recency bias, but off the top of my head, I mean, this performance from Pep Guardiola and the way he adapted for Arsenal. He's the home team, the title's in their hands, they've won 5 of the last 6 or 4 of the last 5, whatever it is, it looks like it's going to be 5 of the last 6. And he adapted for us, and that's what I found fascinating. We're going to break that all down. Let's start with the match stats, as we always do. You asked me off camera, what do I take from this? 14 shots for City to Arsenal's 8, 9 target to 2, 52% possession to 48%, an XG of 2.42 to 0.48. I think the XG is probably the only thing that actually tells the story remotely.
Yeah, I think although we were slightly unlucky with the second goal, I'm not saying it wasn't offside. I thought we were unlucky in the fact that when the cross come in, Ben White was pushed forward by their defender slightly, that put his foot slightly forward, that played Stones onside. So we were unlucky in that respect. But let's not sort of beat around the bush here. Manchester City were far superior through that first half. I haven't seen an Arsenal team cut apart as easily as we were last night this season. And they should have been more than 2 goals up at half-time. Ramsdale made at least 2 or 3 outstanding saves. Haaland had great opportunities, 1 shot past the post. They really deserved to be 2-0 up at half-time, and we can't complain. They outplayed us. The tactics that Pep employed last night, the way they cut through us, and Arteta didn't seem to have any response. He did shift slightly to a 4-4-2 out of possession to try and cope with it. But I think what was really needed last night, was an in-game change, really, for that double pivot that I was tweeting about yesterday. Should we play a double pivot at Man City to protect Holding and Gabriel, who were left terribly exposed?
They were, and the attack stats. Where are they? Here they are. They're not much better. Well, look, final third entries. We had 36, they're 31. Really? Deep touches, 34 to 23. Listen. It was a non-contest. Let's be really honest. Some of these underlying numbers, they look okay. Field tilt doesn't feel too bad. Once they got that third goal, early in the second half, it was job done. They're thinking, we got a treble to fight for. Yeah, cool, we tackled them more. They intercepted us more. more clearances, passive defensive action, not much in it. I imagine that the second half would have skewed the average because that first 50 minutes or so, they were all over us.
I think once they scored the third goal, I think game was done. And I think they were managing the game. We did look better when we made the substitutions. I thought Trossard was really good when he came on. Reece Nelson looked good when he came on. But the game was finished by then.
It was. So you mentioned that we expected City to do something different. I mentioned being more of Pep Guardiola's tactical shake-up. Now, that wasn't the formation. I do know how to make a football formation. But what I've tried to do is I've tried to group the 4 defenders, the 4 midfielders, and the 3 forwards. In fact, you could even put Bernardo in with the midfielders. And we're trying to understand how Man City lined up in this game. Now, here's what we all expected. And I'm sure you don't mind me all saying that we all thought that this was going to be the 11 here. Akanji, Diaz, Walker. We know that without Ake, they might want to do something different. Walker coming in, that made sense to deal with the one-on-one battle with Arsenal's front three and Martinelli. Stones has been unbelievable in midfield with Rodri, and they were going to have De Bruyne and Gundogan running off Haaland and providing support. No.
No, what he's been doing, James, before you just move on. He's been building up with this box midfield over the last few weeks. As you quite rightly say, they've been building up in a 3-5-2, but it's almost been like a box midfield with Rodri and Gundogan on one side and De Bruyne and Stones inverted on the other. So that has been the way they've been playing, building up in a 3-2-5. I think Arsenal expected him to build up in that way, and I think the way he adjusted to the way he knew Arsenal wanted to press high, win the ball up high, and in wide areas, and create transitions up high. So he adjusted in the game. He knew what Arsenal wanted to do, and that was why he moved, I think, to this 4-2-4 build-up. Right,
and this is ultimately what it looked like. We were all wrong, and Pep threw in just a complete shock. Now, we're going to touch on what Arsenal didn't do right. I want to touch on what Man City got absolutely spot on in this game. What I think was brilliant from Man City is by having the back four, I actually think it confused the Arsenal press a little bit. I think that it kind of impacted how he wanted to go man for man, which I know you're going to touch on a little bit. But what you then had was an out ball to Haaland, 2 proper midfielders in Gundogan and Rodri, very complete, who are happy to sweep up any second balls or whatever. But more importantly, you had De Bruyne. And I have fast forwarded a little bit, but I just want to show the De Bruyne goal very quickly. Here we go. Stones has the ball all the way here. Arsenal again, they've tried to press a little bit. Partey's come all the way to follow De Bruyne. You're going to illustrate later that he had a battle with him. And this ball goes long to Haaland, but while it is brilliant from Haaland, the hold-up play, the rolling it into De Bruyne and then what he makes of it after, Arsenal are positionally in a position to deal with it. You know, Holding and Haaland, Gabriel does really well in a sec to actually drop back and cover that space, and Partey's got the yards on De Bruyne, but they were sharper than us as well, because when this ball goes long, De Bruyne runs off Partey far too easily for me. Lovely touch from Haaland, rolls it in, and like I said, Gabriel does well to come back. But what's really clever from De Bruyne is you think that the touch is then going to go out wide to Grealish and they're going to try and stretch us, and he goes, and Gabriel's trying to read that early. De Bruyne goes, all right, cool, fine, I'll just dash the other way, and off he goes, and it's a brilliant finish. You were defending Ramsdale. You don't think he can do much about it?
No, I think it was an excellent piece of play by Kevin De Bruyne, who was absolutely superb in this game. Levels above any player on the pitch, in my opinion. And that was a superb finish. I think what I take from that, James, was, if you just look at it...
should I get it back up?
And if you just go back to the... as it develops again, you said we were well set to actually deal with that. I don't think we were. And the reason why is because the one thing you've got to do, if you're pressing high, you've got to track your runners, and Partey allows Kevin De Bruyne to run far too easily off him. But I don't think we should be in a position where, it's almost like Route 1 football, isn't it? It's almost like Burnley football, and that's not meaning to be disrespectful for Pep, because he won the league last year with 2 false nines, or without a centre forward, and now he's got a centre forward. He wants to use him. I get that, and he did it brilliantly. But we know that Holding, to be in this position where you've got one-on-one battles here, where you're playing this high line, I think we were very vulnerable, and we didn't put ourselves in a position to protect Holding or Gabriel. And I think the only way we could have done it, once we realised quite quickly how they were setting up in the game, and they flipped to this 4-2-4, I think we had to then adjust Xhaka in the game. I think Xhaka had to come back from that left-sided number 8 role to sit alongside Thomas Partey to offer a bit of protection in front of our 2 centre-backs. That's what I felt that we were lacking in the game straight away.
You want Arsenal to be a bit
and
more
I
like
wanted
that.
us to be in a position almost like a mid-block, and Saka would have Saka and Martinelli to drop. So we almost like, and they did sometimes drop into a 4-4-2, but that was after the game that they were heading the game. We could see how they were setting up quite early. I would have thought that's what Arteta would have maybe thought about that and flipped to that quite quickly to try and stop this sort of situation developing, because we didn't learn our lesson from the Emirates. They beat us at the Emirates in this way, and we have been vulnerable lately, conceding goals. The goals conceded that we're going to talk about today has gone up over the last 14 games from almost doubled in those 14 games the goals we're conceding per game.
Yeah.
So we have been vulnerable defensively. So I think we needed to get some control in the game. Pep got control in the game by having 2 number 6s, and I'm going to highlight here now that he had these sort of like 2 triangles on the either side of the pitch.
Should we highlight, you know what, I'm going to get the 11s back up because I think we can highlight it a little bit better.
And this is how they created like mini transitions in the game. So when we were pressing, you had like 2 triangles to sort of like bait the press. You had Akanji, Diaz and Gundogan. That was 3 on one side, and then you had Rodri, Stones and Walker 3 on the other side. So he's got like these 2 little triangles here to build the play, to bait the press. They're playing around with the ball here at the back line, waiting for Arsenal to push on. He's got 2 number 6. Kevin De Bruyne talked about after the game, we wanted control, midfield control. They've got the midfield control, and to build mini transitions by having these little triangles here to build the play, to invite the press, and then they're going to go to Stones and he's going to knock a long ball to Haaland over the top. It's far too easy, James, and we're not set up to deal with it. I think that basically we were very naive in this game. Your headline today on the show is outthought, and we were outthought. And I think the only way that we, once we saw that they were building up differently, I think we should have adjusted in the game. We chose not to do so.
Let me ask you though, how on earth does Pep Guardiola adapt for Arsenal, young Arsenal who haven't won a title in 19 years, who haven't won a game against Man City in the last 12. In fact, they've lost every single one, and he respected us more than we respected him. And what I will caveat by saying is, I understand that we did a similar thing at Tottenham last year, where we wanted to go man for man all over the pitch. We wanted to press, we wanted to play our football, because I think Arteta sees a longer term benefit, which is, I'm trying to instill in the players a no fear. We have a style and we take it to anyone. And maybe towards the end of this process and whenever we're near the complete thing, he might feel they're ready to tactically mix it up and do different things. But this was one game we had to really respect the opposition.
Yes.
Does it affect the team so much if you say, listen, it's great, everything, the principles of play is all there, don't forget that, but for one game I need a different plan from you all. Surely they can do that.
Well, this is what makes him such a great manager, that he's as good as he is.
Pep Guardiola.
Pep Guardiola, first of all. As many titles as he's won at Barcelona, Bayern Munich, and Man City, the game is always evolving, and he's looking to stay, evolve with the game.
Yeah, always.
And he's always looking at what other teams are doing. He's taken notice of what the Brighton coach has done this season, and he's adapted that to Man City's style in a way. He looked at the way Arsenal, the strengths of this Arsenal team, and obviously he came up with a plan to actually nullify it, and in effect it worked. He is helped by having, I think, a top striker, Haaland, last night. That was the complete centre-forward performance. And he bullied Holding and Gabriel. Yeah. Arteta did adjust in the game.
Did the same with the Emirates, by the way.
Yeah, he did at the Emirates. And Arteta did adjust in the game by moving Holding slightly over and putting Gabriel onto Haaland later in the game. That made no difference at all. So I think you could argue that Arteta was either naive or arrogant. He said that he wanted to go to the Etihad and play with the principles and the attitude that had got us to where we got to in the league this season, which was a noble thing to say and do. But you made a great point before we started recording this morning. He did that with Saliba at the back. He didn't have Saliba at the back. He didn't adjust to the fact he hasn't adjusted over the last few weeks. Possibly you could argue to having Holding in the team well enough. You could argue Arsenal have dropped off a few yards, defended deeper or whatever. But have we really given protection to Holding and Gabriel? Holding is not as good up high as, or even in this system that Arteta wants to play. And there is almost like an argument, and Clive Palmer, I'll take no credit, Clive said it himself, that in some of his tweets, that almost like the only way to deal with this would have been to go to that double pivot, and that would have given us a base to build on, added stability at the back, which would have protected Holding and Gabriel. So yes, brilliant from Pep. Arsenal carried on playing in the principles that have got them to where they got. But last night they were up against a team that were out to show the rest of the Premier League why they won 4 of the last 5 Premier Leagues and are now almost certain to win 5 of the last 6.
Yeah, I completely agree. It impacted Arsenal massively. Let's talk about some of Arsenal's, this particular passing stat, which you sent through to me, that 64% of Arsenal's passes attempted up to Man City's third goal were all in their own half. It showed how much they respected Arsenal in terms of the way they pressed, but also made sure they suffocated us in one area of the pitch.
They did suffocate us. Their press, and that's the difference. Sometimes I talk about the press a lot, don't I?
Yeah.
Our press last night, they played round our press very easy. They adapted a system to play round our press. We could not play round their press. No. They had sort of like 2 lines that were blocking us from getting out. They stopped the build-up play from Partey and Zinchenko in central midfield. And basically they pinned us in. There was no outball for Arsenal. Even when Jesus, who normally likes to drop into the space to create an extra overload of midfield, Stones or Diaz will follow him and stop that from happening. Pep had an answer for everything that Arsenal tried last night, to such an extent that Arsenal's 2 Brazilians, key players in the team, in Gabriel Jesus and Gabriel Martinelli, had the fewest touches in the first half in the whole game. Yeah. Jesus only touched the ball 14 times, and Martinelli had least touches of all, only 10. And that showed you that not only did they navigate their way very easily around our press, but their press stopped us from playing the way we want to play.
And I think they also recognised Rob Holding's deficiencies more than Arteta did. Because look at this, in the first half, Rob Holding had the most touches with 39 and the most passes with 35 of any Arsenal player. Partey in that time ranked in the bottom 3 for both. And I think that for me tells me so much, because Rob Holding is not a ball-playing centre-back. I don't know how many times I can say it and how many languages I can say it. Listen, we all know it. We all know it. And some people go, how are you scapegoating Rob Holding? He actually did okay compared to everyone else. He got a goal. He tried. I give him that. He did score and he did try and he threw everything at it. People need to understand that the criticism of Rob Holding isn't that he isn't playing up to the level we know he can deliver. It's that there is a fundamental ceiling and a lack of attributes that fit what Mikel Arteta is trying to do. And Arteta didn't adapt for it. And once again, Guardiola did. For anyone asking what he could have done, he could have done what he did at Stamford Bridge last year when he did play Rob Holding. It was Gabriel, Holding and White. So Holding had 2 centre-backs either side and Saka played as a right wing-back. He could have showed them more respect. He didn't do that. He could have played Kivior. Because anyone who's saying, yeah, but left-footed centre-back, a right centre-back, do you want that? Well, I've just seen a right-footed centre-back in a Akanji be brilliant at left-back. So, no one can tell me that there aren't other solutions. The way Partey played, he may as well play Partey right-back, White centre-back and Jorginho in midfield because he was that poor. And then at least you'd have had more like-for-like profiles across the pitch. So there is more Arteta could have done. And I wasn't really on Arteta for the last few games, West Ham, Southampton, because the team that were out there, the way they played this season and the level of those players, they had enough to get through those games, especially from 2-0 up against West Ham, especially at home to bottom of the table Southampton. But in this game, it is sometimes the managers that make that difference. And Arteta fell short in this situation. And the fact that Partey had so little of the ball, but Rob Holding had so much, when they actually operate in fairly similar areas of the pitch, tells you where Man City wanted to prioritise their press and who they were happy to say, yeah, you have it and let's see what you do with it.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% spot on, mate. I think the other thing in Arteta's defence is incredibly unlucky, not just to lose William Saliba, but he's also lost Tomiyasu.
Yeah.
So when you think about
and it is unlucky.
The 2 business ends of the season, when you think about last year when we were playing for top 4, we lost our left back and we lost Partey in the run-in, and that massively, the drop-off between those 2 players and the players we played, Tavares and Lokonga last year, effectively, and Cedric also came in at right back, that effectively was the reason why we didn't get top 4, in my opinion. And I think one of the reasons why we've fallen away over the last few weeks is the fact that he's had to, obviously, he's lost his key defender. Saliba is absolutely massive to this team, the way he plays. The goals that we've conceded since he's been out of the team, it's no coincidence that now he's not in the team, we are conceding goals, but also no coincidence that we are not playing so well. What he offers on the ball with his composure and the way he fits this system that Arteta plays. That for me was more the reason, as I said to you at the start, maybe the adjustment he could have made in recognising that Holding can't play in the way Saliba does, possibly to think maybe he does need to give a bit more protection, particularly away from home, particularly when you go into the team that have won 4 of the last 5 Premier Leagues. And let's face it, we got beaten last night by Manchester City, playing round our press and playing long balls and playing for second balls and then just running straight through our defence. I mean, that was, I was watching it on television last night, and it really did make me cringe the way that so easy they were running through our defence. Yeah. No team has done that to us this year. Yeah. And I think he, in the end, that's where the game was settled. But he has been unlucky in the fact that he's lost his key defender. But as you're right, Pep's adapted. But Pep, let's face it, we give credit to Pep, but Pep has got like 2 squads. He spent nearly a decade.
Got 17 players.
He had the difference was Rob Holding is a £2 million defender. Yeah. He had a £60 million defender, Laporte, on the bench last night. He had 2 £50 million forwards, Mahrez and the Argentinian forward Alvarez on the bench as well. And that's the difference. I mean, for all his brilliance, Pep, Manchester City have spent a lot of money, and that's not a criticism of Manchester City, but I'm just saying they've got quality players. So when they've got, like, if you look at their defenders, central defenders, they've got Stones, they've got Diaz, they've got Laporte, Akanji and Ake. They've got 4 or 5 quality centre halves. 1 or 2 drop out. There's another 3 available. We have got 2 quality centre backs, Saliba and Gabriel. The drop off is massive. So that's what I was saying. That.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Now, lucky you get 2 tactical insights in one show. Have a little look at this. Alright guys, we've all been there. You're based here, wherever you are. And now you've rinsed all your streaming platforms. You need to get a new show to watch, and it's only available here, in the US. Now, if you tried to do this on your own, there's actually a lot of danger. You could, I don't know, get slide tackled by some malware, for example. Or you could get marked out, as you've got them here. But there's really annoying internet trackers. And there's a whole host of other threats as well on the counter-attack, such as viruses, malicious websites, or even intrusive ads. But when you're teaming up with NordVPN, you can open up a lot of options, as we can see right here. You've got your speed, of course. Guess who's in behind those threats? Because NordVPN is the fastest VPN on the market. The opposition just simply won't be able to keep up with you. And then, of course, you've got your next generation encryption, so they can't even really see you. And let's be honest, actually, for a second, that is a massive advantage already. And it's your multiple devices that we can see here in midfield that are going to benefit from all these things. You've also got strict no-log policies, and at this point, you don't even exist. The opposition would inevitably be thrashed. All these things come together to score you the fresh content that you all want and love. There you go, brilliant goal. You got your 3 points, you got your win. Hit the link to be invincible with NordVPN.
And with the AFTV special, you can save even more. Click the link to be invincible.
Use code AFTV at checkout and go hit the link nordvpn.com/AFTV for the AFTV special. Big thanks to them for powering this show. Now, you touched on it, so we'll just show the numbers. Saliba's impact, with and without him, 27 games to 6 without. Amazing amount of clean sheets. We haven't had a single one without him. Shots faced per game goes up without him. In terms of the win percentage, it decreases massively. And points per match, you're talking a point less.
Yeah, these are the 33 Premier League games this season. 27 with him, 6 without. And in the 6 without him, obviously, we've only won 2. And you look at that, the win percentage, look how that has declined, and the points. Massive. Not a coincidence, just how good he has been for us this season, and what a miss he is.
Yeah, massive miss. And I feel like I had one more graphic I wanted to show. Yes, this one, about conceding goals, because even with Saliba, there was actually a change in Arsenal's defensive resilience. And you picked out the Spurs game. Do you mind if I read this down?
Yeah, sure.
You talk it through. But
you talk it through.
Since Tottenham away, Arsenal have struggled defensively, conceding 1.43 goals per game, compared to 0.78 before that. So we talk about the holding thing, and I think I've explained quite coherently why I think he's an issue. But even with Saliba, and we had addressed it on this show, Arsenal were conceding far too many chances, far too many chances. I go back to the Everton 4-0 win at home, where I told everyone, We were way too open. No one wanted to listen because we won. But we're seeing this has been a major issue. What has changed since Tottenham?
Well, after that Tottenham win, we were 8 points clear, I think, at the top of the Premier League. And then we had our first dip of the season, James, and that was the defeat at Everton, where we were just poor on the day. We lost it 1-0.
We beat Man United and then we had the dip.
Yes, sorry, that's right. Yeah. We beat Man United, then we had the dip.
2 goals conceded, though.
2 goals conceded. Well, yeah, there you go. 2 goals conceded. But, Man United, obviously, not quite as good as Man City, but still a good side. But we've been conceding goals since Tottenham quite regularly. We had that dip, I think, in those 3 games where we lost to Everton, then we lost to Man City, and then we after the Brentford draw. But then we had that 7-game, we picked up again, we had 7 straight wins, but we were conceding goals, weren't we? We were open at Aston Villa. Do you remember how they carved through us for their opening goal? Saliba's been out of the team now for 6 games. I think it has had an effect. It's hard. I'm just thinking why we would have been conceding goals. I think that possibly at home we've been conceding goals all season, but we started conceding goals away from home. I just think that we had that dip in form, and obviously although we addressed it and won some games, we've been more defensively vulnerable, and it's hard to put your finger on why. We were almost like perfect in the first half of the season, so you could argue that we reached levels that were really above that probably even we expected. But no doubt about it, since Saliba's come out, we haven't looked so good defensively. But I think there's been more individual errors. That's the other thing I will say. I think that we weren't making so many errors early in the season. But over the last few weeks, there's been a lot of individual mistakes. Even in the Man City game last night, the 3rd and 4th goals, Odegaard gave away the ball that led to the 3rd goal, and we were loose from the throw-in that led, we gave the ball away for the 4th goal.
Yeah,
so it's a combination of that, I think, individual errors. Has it been the pressure, you could argue, as we go towards the back end of the season? Almost like the players have been playing Man City more than the opposition, maybe over the last few weeks, watching what Man City have been doing when they've been on this relentless run. 6 straight wins in the Premier League, fantastic wins in Europe and in the FA Cup, beating teams by 5 and 6. That might have had an effect. So, but no doubt about it, I think we've just been making more individual mistakes. We've lost Zinchenko at times over the last few weeks. 1 or 2 players have come out as well as Saliba. And over the last few games, like we went to West Ham without Zinchenko and Saliba. We went to play the Southampton game without Xhaka and Saliba. So we've had 1 or 2 players drop out. Early in the season, when we had this really strong defensive performance and run, we had virtually the settled 11. And then
Certainly a spine.
Yeah, the spine of the team was there, wasn't it? Saliba, Partey and Jesus. Jesus then got injured, but that didn't affect because Nketiah and then Trossard come in and addressed that. But we have lost key players and we've been making individual errors over the last couple of months since that Tottenham game.
I agree. I'm going to just have a little bit of a moan about referees for a second. I actually gave Michael Oliver a good rating on my player ratings. Now, I don't think he had any howlers. And why am I even talking about this? We got absolutely battered. 4-1 probably flattered us. And we absolutely deserve to lose the game. But I want to actually call these things out as well, not just when they are match-defining moments, but actually when they can easily be brushed under. I think it's important we mention them. Now, the White playing Stones onside. When there's a push that's put the player in that position, they've got to see that VAR. I know we deserve to be 4-0 down at half-time anyway. That's why I haven't mentioned it till now, and I didn't mention it on anything, like my fan cam or anything like that. But they've got to see that.
Do you think that's a foul then?
What, like a push in the box?
And I 100% agree with you. He clearly pushed Ben White. And that pushed Ben White, as I said earlier, and he went forward and his foot was slightly playing Stones on. Had he not been pushed, he would have probably been off. So do you think that's a foul then?
Yeah,
do you think they have to take into account that he's touched him?
They have to give the foul.
You think it's a foul?
They go, cool, he's onside, but he's fouled. So we give and that foul has impacted play.
Okay, yeah.
So I think they've got to, I think they've got to give the foul. Diaz. Now, Jamie Carragher tweeted, Ben White, get up. There wasn't much contact. But Ben White has to react like that, just so they even look at the incident properly. Now, Pepe got sent off, and I keep coming back to this because they've set a precedent in the Premier League, and you see a lot of this throughout the season, lots of decisions, where they often look at intention sometimes rather than the actual result. So with the Pepe one, he's leading into, I think it was Alioski, And because there's a bit of a movement, they gave him a red card. Now, I was consistent. I said at the time that was a stupid thing for Pepe to do because he gave them the decision to make and he performed an action that they have said is a red card offence. A kick out, no matter how forced, no matter how fast, no matter how much you capture them, a kick out it's a red card. Yeah. And I think Granit Xhaka as well got away with a little bit of a headlock on Grealish. So I'm being fair. I think a lot of those moments, I don't know if that's a red, maybe the yellow was fair, but I just want to mention
there's an argument for a red.
For the Xhaka one?
For both, potentially.
Yeah.
You could argue. Do you not think then, as we're looking at referees' performance, do you think we got away with one early on in that penalty incident in the first minute?
Great one. So, I don't know how I feel about this. I'll tell you why. I'm not just trying to be a biased Arsenal fan. Partey does something that you see all over the pitch. Jack Wilshere was the master of it, and they let it play on, which is basically, what they say is you've got to get to the ball. Now, often people think to get the ball you have to touch it, but Partey's he's planted himself in the way to protect the ball and turn away. The thing is, him and De Bruyne clash, so it looks like he's also brought down De Bruyne. I'll be honest, I don't know.
My heart was in my mouth.
I don't know. Lee Judge has said it was Stonewall.
Yeah.
I don't know. Look, if they gave it, I don't think I'd be complaining too much. If it'd been the other way and Rodri did that to Ødegaard, I'd probably be calling for a penalty. But I can understand why they think that Partey's actually got his body to the ball and he's trying to spin off and then there's contact.
We are very critical of referees and sometimes rightly so. We're very critical of VAR sometimes and rightly so. But I thought Michael Oliver last night tried to let the game play.
I thought he had a good game. I did, and I said that.
And he respected the fact that the best two teams were going head to head, and he didn't want to be the centrepiece of the game. Yeah. He wanted these two teams to play the game, the best team won, and I think he tried to let everything go. I think he had a pretty good performance overall. Yeah,
no, I do too. I thought it was worth mentioning those moments. So I do think you set a standard. If the intention, if the kick out, no matter what the impact, is what you punish for a red card, then that should be a red card. But look, we are really scraping the bottom of the jar here.
We have to. We just lost 4-1.
I hear it.
No, to be honest, we've acknowledged just how good Manchester City were last night.
More than any other team, we've given time. Normally I do that on DR Sports Talking Tactics, where I talk about the other team. Here, we had to acknowledge how good they were. Let's go through the roundup stats, Graham. I'll let you take it away.
Okay, mate. Very few roundup stats this week, for obvious reasons, but I'll just let you and the subscribers of AFTV hear one or two. Arsenal have now lost their last 12 Premier League games v Manchester City, their worst run of defeats against an opponent in their history.
Yeah.
Arsenal are the first side to go 4 consecutive games winless while starting the day top of each match since Arsenal themselves, as top of the table in each match, since Arsenal themselves in 2008. You know that?
Wow. Fair enough.
But I'm going to end on a positive.
Go on.
Brighton's defeat meant that Arsenal have now qualified for next season's Champions League. I just want to get in a feel for this, put this in perspective. Because as much as I think we've had a great season, and a lot of people are going to be disappointed, I've been immensely proud of this team, the football they played this season, proud of Arteta for what he's developing. I think this team is evolving, and I think with 1 or 2 astute signings in the summer, this team's going to get better next year.
I agree.
And Manchester City showed us, I think, the benchmark, where we need to get to. And they are a long way ahead of every team in the Premiership. Our Manchester United fans are out there laughing this morning, but they could easily go and win the treble this season and emulate what
they're going to do 3 in a row and they're going to win the treble. So
but at the same time as we're sort of like lamenting a loss, just end on this note, Tottenham Hotspur's calendar for next season, for this season, they've made an adjustment. They've got a manager for March, a manager for April, and a manager for May in their calendar now. 3. So, we could be Tottenham Hotspur. So there's always a silver lining.
Even every 4-1 down, he provides a Tottenham joke. We know you're all disappointed. We are too. Let's try focus on the positives. Let's learn from what happened here. Let's try and understand that as well. The depth we need to address in the summer isn't just about adding quality players, but it's about adding players that can do the like for like. Saliba's out. That's going to happen. Injuries are part of football. But who is the Saliba replacement that can do what Saliba does if Arteta doesn't want to compromise on his principles? Otherwise, we've got to mix it up. But Arsenal still have 5 games to play. And I'll always say, you fight for every point and then you see where you end up. Because I've seen some mad, nuts, unbelievable stuff in football, in sport in general. Golf, tennis, you name it. Crazy things happen.
The challenge is for Arsenal now, Park this. Arteta did say that. They were better than us, we need to move on. 5 games left, 5 wins gives us 90 points. Right, if we get 90 points, I know we've got a difficult game at Newcastle coming up in that 5-game run. Get 90 points, at least put a bit of pressure on Manchester City. As you say, anything can happen in football, but come on Arsenal, let's just, these next 5 games, James, let's just go back to doing what we have been doing so well this season.
Completely agree. We're going to end on that. If you've enjoyed it, hit the like button. Go check out all the other videos from the player ratings that Robbie and I did to everything coming out this week as well. And of course, we'll be previewing Chelsea as well. All right, we'll see you very soon. Many, many thanks.
Shop for AFTV merch at shop.aftv.co.uk. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat and Twitch. We've got content for every platform, so check it out.